Hey everybody, today we are going to talk about cooking a roast. Ooh, I know, right? That is one of the things at our restaurant that we're kind of well known for is our roast. We have roast every Thursday. It is the only thing that is a standing item on our menu. Everything else changes all the time, every week, every day. So anyway, roast is a big thing. People love, love, love a good roast as much as people hate, hate, hate a gross roast. A dry, chewy. Have you ever had one of those roasts where you put a bite in your mouth and the more you chewed, the bigger it got? And it felt like you were eating a cotton wad or something. It's extremely disgusting. If you could get your napkin up and discreetly removed it, you would have. We don't want to do that. So I'm going to go over a few things just some few basic tips that will help you always, always, always have a good roast. It's not so much about the recipe. Heresy, I know, but it's really not. It's not as much about the recipe as it is about the cut of meat. Well, let me back up. I'm not even going to say that. The type of meat, that's the right way to say it, and the way you cook it. So let's get into this. I've got here, ta-da, it's about a 3 pound, just a little bit shy of a 3 pound chuck roast. Now here's the key. I'm gonna pull this guy. I'm wearing my glove because I don't want to have to run to the stove. I don't want to wash my hands on the stove. I don't want to have to run to the sink every 2 minutes. Let me flip this down if I can. How's that? I think y'all can see pretty good. There we go. Now here is one of the keys. One of the main keys. Okay, y'all listening? You got your pen and paper. You're all Pee Wee Herman ears here. You want bone in. You see that bone right there? Bone in roast, bone in meat. See that big old hunker there? That is amazing. That's what you want. This is it happens to be a chuck roast, which is kind of my go-to, but I'll talk about that in a minute as well. It is from, there's another bone. Yay, we love some bones. This is from one of the farmers that I shop with locally. It's pastured, it's grass-fed, it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Got it in my nice big deep cast iron skillet. It's called a chicken fryer, but today it's gonna be a roast cooker. So just put your roast in your pan. You want something deep enough that when you cover it, the tin foil is not gonna touch your food. You know how we feel about foil on our food. So, anywho, so you put your roast in. Let me talk a little bit about the bone and why it's so important. I mean, grass-fed, pasture-raised, local, small farmed animals are the best. They're raised humanely. They're raised the way God created them to live, and it just makes all the difference as opposed to a CAFO-raised, conventionally mistreated, horribly raised piece of meat. So anyway, the key to the bones is you're adding a lot of minerals to what you're cooking. So like we talked about in our stewing and picking chicken video, the bones add a lot of calcium, phosphorus, magnesium. I'll get it out in a minute. It's just super, super nutrient dense. It's adding gelatin, collagen, glycine, all those things that your body really needs and wants to what you're cooking, and any meat near the bone is always going to be sweeter. I don't care what kind of animal you're eating, it's going to be sweeter. So make sure you get a bone-in roast. I don't know these days if you can even get a bone-in roast at a grocery store. Those went away when I was a little girl. That's all they had, and then it got to where they were trimming the bones out. I don't know, I guess people feel better if they're getting more meat, less bone. Forget that noise. I want the bone. It's adding to what we're doing. So I think you've gotten that point. Get the bone. So anyway, bone in is the best. For this roast, what I'm going to do today, super simple. And again, it's not so much about the recipe as it is about the cut of meat and the way you cook it. So I'm just going to season mine liberally. This is a seasoning blend, kind of a Cajun blend that I make. Whatever seasoning you want to use. If you have a favorite seasoning blend, if you use Slap Your Mama, or which this is kind of something similar to that, Tony, Sashry's, whatever seasoning blend you like. Put it on there. It's all good. And then this is some cream of mushroom soup I made and got out of the freezer. It's a little bit thin because it had been frozen, and quite frankly, I didn't let it thaw all the way, but it doesn't matter. It's going to be fine. Please, I'll come down here. Please don't buy Campbell's. Don't buy any canned cream of mushroom soup. It's so stinking easy to make. We'll do that in a different video. But this is just a homemade cream of mushroom soup. So we're going to pour that over it. And again, remember, this isn't so much about the recipe as the technique. So I've got some fresh mushrooms here. We're just going to sprinkle those. I'll use frozen mushrooms a lot. I just happen to have some fresh ones. I cut all those up obviously ahead of time. I'll do one just in case you've never messed with fresh mushrooms. You just want to cut the little tip off, compost that guy, wash them, of course wash them, because they're grown in dirt or other things, and they may be nasty. I like mine a little bit thicker for something like this. Wow, see, that was hard, wasn't it? And then this is some bone broth, little shameless plug. We make bone broth at the restaurant and we sell it in our market. So you definitely want, I'm gonna go ahead and put it all, because that's gonna be something else I'm gonna tell y'all about when we get this baby out of the oven. You definitely want some super, super good stock. Again, make your own, please. Get you some good bones. I would use chicken stock even. I do that a lot at the restaurant. Put chicken stock in with my beef roast. It's all good. You got that mineral-rich, collagen, gelatin-rich stock. Oh, Lord, it's good stuff. And I tell you what, just because I'm feeling kind of froggy today, I'm going to add some more seasoning on top of my shrooms. All right. Now, here's my only problem here. My food is sticking up above the top of my pan. Can't have that. Okay, don't want my tin foil touching my pan. So now, here's tip number, I think it would be 2, because we have the pasture-raised, bone-in, phenomenal cut of meat. That is tip number 1. Tip number 2 will be tightly cover. And when I say tightly, I mean tightly. And see, I'll go around like, you see how I'm kind of rimming around the pan? Because you want to make sure that the air, the steam, I should say, is not escaping from this pan. If you have a lid for the pan you're using, beautiful, as long as it's tight. Let me slide this guy over here. Just get it on there really good. Remember how we steamed the beets and had the little pouch and kept all the steam in? That's the effect you're after here. That is one of the keys to having a super tender, super juicy roast, okay? My foil on the side is a little bit long, so I'm just gonna kind of roll it up. I know you can't really see what I'm doing, but I don't want it hanging down. See, like this right here? Because then it may bump the rack when I put it in the oven, and it'll shift the foil all around, and we don't want that. So I'm folding that up to keep it from bumping into anything, and just make sure you're all sealed up. So that's tip number 2. That was a long, babbly tip number 2. Tip number 3 is low and slow. Let me flip it. That was bad. Lord have mercy. I'm going to edit that piece out for sure. Tip number 3 is low and slow. So you want to do it in a low temperature oven. I usually do 325 for a long time, and usually about 4 to 4.5 hours. This roast is a little bit smaller than what I normally do. It's a little less than 3 pounds, so 4 hours should be plenty. You hear all that behind us? That's my stove. Isn't that awesome? I love it. It's like an extra feature. But anyway, some kind of fan in the back rattles. I don't know. It drives me nuts, but that's what that noise is. So now we're going to pop this in the oven. We're going to let it go for 4 hours. I'll keep talking. No, I'm kidding. I'm not going to keep talking for 4 hours. I'll pause this. We'll come back when we pull it out, and it's gonna be amazing. Look at that. You see? Look at that guy right there. That was a Christmas present. Is that the coolest thing you've ever seen? It is a 16-quart cast iron Dutch oven. And look at that. There's one too. That's a 5-quart. I got 2. My family knows me. So anywho, we'll be back in a little while. Okay, peeps. The timer just went off on the roast. I'm going to get it out of the oven here. Golly, I wish y'all could smell this thing. It smells amazing. Oh, and I just realized I changed shirts. I mean, it has been 4 hours. You are getting the finest of my fashion apparel here, but whatever. You know, it's how you are when you're in your own kitchen. You do what you do. All right, let's turn this thing down so you can see what this, oops, sorry, that's a little crooked. There we go, that's a little better. All right, again, steam, watch the steam. See that? Poof, that will burn you so bad. Holy moly. There we go. Check that mug out. Oh, let me see if I can grab a spoon. Look at this. That bone just slips right out of there like nothing. Y'all, look at this. Spoon's not exactly the best way to do this, but whatever. Oop, there's that other little bone right over here that I was messing with earlier. Get that little joker out of there. If you have a dog, that's the ticket. Y'all, this is amazing. Oh my goodness. So here's a couple of tips for you. So this is done. I mean, this roast is done. It's super duper duper tender. It's gonna be freaking awesome. Yummers. I've got some mustard greens cooked. Yow. But a couple things that you can do is, oh, there's another little bone. You can, if you want thicker gravy, you can either turn it on the stove and just let it cook down, kind of reduce it, as they say, let the liquid boil out of it. Cook out, not the liquid, but some of the water and stuff boil out, so that'll thicken it up. You can do that. You could get a little bit of arrowroot and add to it. Just mix it up in a cup. Please don't use cornstarch. Please, please, please don't use cornstarch. That stuff is nasty. It's made from corn, which was mostly genetically modified. Full of Roundup, full of garbage. Arrowroot will do the same thing, and it's so much better. So you can mix a little bit of that in there. It'll thicken it up. One thing I'm going to do, and I mentioned in the earlier video, or in the earlier part of the video, that I was adding extra liquid in here. I knew I would have more gravy than I need, because here's one of my favorite things to do. Y'all ready? Got your paper and pen? Freeze my gravy. Earth shattering, right? I love to take any extra gravy I have and freeze it. Just put it in a little deli cup or a Ziploc bag, whatever works for you. Write on it what kind of gravy it is. And next time you're cooking something and you don't have enough gravy, or you want to add a little more gravy, or you need something really deep and savory in your soup or your stew, whip that gravy out, thaw it, and pop it in there, and off the chart amazing. I mean, amazing. Because if you think about it, this meat has already cooked for several hours, so it has created this very, very rich gravy. If you're making a pan gravy on top of the stove for some cut of meat and you want a little richer flavor, getting a gravy out of the freezer that's been cooked for hours in some meat, oh, it's so good. So anywho, there you go. Roast 101. See how simple that is? First tip, pasture-raised bone-in beef, local farm. Tip 2, seal it very, very tightly. A super tight lid if you have one. I've never seen one that's tight enough like that, so I always just use tin foil, not touching my food, any food in there. Tip 3, low and slow, 325 for 4 to 4.5 hours. It always works. It's always the ticket. It always does what it needs to do. Even if you have a rump roast or an arm roast or, some other cut, it's still going to be amazing. So I hope this helps. I hope y'all give it a shot. Let me know what you think. If you have a favorite roast recipe, you're not sure how to clean it up, shoot it to me. I'll do it. And oh, that'd be fun to do a video on that. So anyway, have a good one.